really.
Right.
It's weird.
Hey, we'll be repping on YouTube. So this morning's topic, you guys. So good morning. Oh, wait, we didn't even say we just started talking, right? So good morning. This is the Thick Goddess Energy morning show. We are terribly late today because it's just been a long week and the struggle was real getting up. But this morning show is brought to you by Divine Moon Goddess Healers and Readings.com, where your questions get answered. And yes, you can go there, get tarot readings and healing sessions and guided meditation and birth chart analysis and dream interpretation and just a slew of classes that we have to order and have available, have to order, have
Right.
available. Also, a shop, a crystal shop, merchandise shop as well. So definitely go over there and check us out. So if you're looking, of course, where to contact us, everything is in the description or wherever you're watching it. It should be in the description box, as well as if you would like to donate to the channel or the morning show, information where to donate is there as well. So on the morning show, we don't really take questions, Shivi, but we can. I'm not doing free questions at this time. The donation information should be in the description wherever you're watching, should you want to donate. The topic today is spiritual closet.
Ooh.
Are you in the spiritual closet?
Ooh.
Dun dun dun. And then, of course, our opinions on the spiritual closet, right?
Right.
Because we always have a fucking opinion. Thank you,
Just a,
Jerome.
just a little bit. Um. So what are there's different ways you can be in the spiritual closet, right?
Right, right, right.
I know coming into my path, um, I've met people with like 3 fucking Facebooks, 2 fake
Right.
names. So that was one way of them being in the closet. Other ones who are full blown, like doing spells and doing tarot, but still haven't come out. I just seen a post the other day that this lady was saying that her house cleaner was very religious. So when her house cleaner would come, she would hide her tarot cards. And now apparently she can't find them. So the husband is trying to convince her just to, like open up and tell her that and she's like, I don't want to offend her. So there's just so many ways of being in the spiritual closet. Like, can you imagine your in-laws coming over? Um, in-laws coming over today and you got to run through your house and get rid of all your crystals and your tarot cards and um,
Right.
so I'm wondering how, like, what are some things that stop people, number one, from coming out?
Right.
And what is the biggest thing that you've had to deal with coming out of the closet?
So I will say that I think that some of the things that hinder people in whatever spiritual path they're in is the fear and judgment behind what it is that they're attracted to or like, and that's based on society's bullshit, right? That's where it comes from, all the judgment from others, right? And because when you're coming into any type of spirituality or spell work or tarot, you lack that knowledge, you lack that of what it is, so you're still afraid even though you're curious and you're practicing, or you're, you know what I mean, you're reaching out to some things, you're curious about it, but you're still afraid of it. You're still afraid of what's going to happen. You're still afraid of what people are going to say. Even in my own path, when I first got into thank you, boo, thank you, boo. When I first got into tarot and decided to open a tarot channel, um, and I immediately went to like this stage name, right? I immediately went to, I need a name. I need a name for this channel. And Divine Moon Goddess wasn't my name at the time. It was the name that I created for the channel. Like I wanted a
Mm,
tarot channel name. And so that's where Divine Moon Goddess came, Divine Moon Goddess Tarot and Inspiration. And then I went on Facebook and I started using my Facebook, but it seemed to be like that kind of judgment and people just kind of watching. And so I ended up creating my business page and taking the Divine Moon Goddess and working out of that instead of my personal page at the time, because it was just like that judgment, that like people looking and people scared and people like, oh
Mhm.
shit, now she's like fucking, demon worshiper, like seriously, devil worshiper over here. And um, you just feel it and no support. So that's what opted me to even go with what I refer to as like the stage name. But I will say that no matter creating the business page, I still didn't go back like into the closet. It was still like, this is me. This is what I practice. If you don't like it, that's it. But I did separate myself from my personal page because I didn't have any support on my personal page. None,
Yeah.
you know? And so I did separate myself because I just didn't want to see people watching that I knew, but weren't even saying anything. Like that kind of got to me for some reason. That kind of like, I don't know. Right.
What is the biggest loss that you've taken being out in the open?
I don't think I have taken a loss, honestly. Um, because I haven't, the thing about it is most of the people who backed away from me are, within like a year of me doing what I do, those same people started to reach out to me. And it was like, oh, now you want a reading. You know what I mean? Like, oh, now you see me doing my thing. Now you want a reading. And the other fucked up part about it was I backed away from them because then it was like, oh, can I get a free reading? And as soon as I'm like, oh, check my prices, it's like, oh, your prices, you don't even talk to me and you haven't even supported me, but now I'm supposed to give free readings to everybody that I know.
Mm-hmm.
Get the fuck out of here. It was kind of one of those things. So I don't really feel like I lost anything stepping into my power. And you know what I mean? The only thing, even at work, I was, because, even at work, I was kind of afraid to talk about why I was leaving and where I was going. There was a little bit of fear to kind of really go into what I was doing. But then I was just like, no, fuck what they think. And I remember like some of the people looking at me like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're
Yeah.
really gonna quit your job to go do this? Like, you're really gonna, and it's like they didn't understand. And I didn't know how to explain it at the time of what I was going to. It's not just tarot, it's what I'm doing in the healing field or whatever. So there was like this fear of kind of saying it with that loss of judgment, like all of us
Mhm.
be like, oh, look what she's doing. But I had a lot of people eventually that were reaching out to me, and it's just like, oh, now you guys believe, okay, whatever. I don't really think I've taken an L in stepping into my power. And I don't think I've really lost anybody that was true to me, you know?
Mhm. I think
Not
the
even.
hardest thing for me has been, I was like that too, where I made an Oracle Empress page, and I have my regular Facebook. But that's just because I want to be able to have more of my promotions or my business things. So I have a different inbox to check than I do for family. Everybody pretty much knows what I do. But I feel like the hardest thing that I've come across is meeting people who, when they say, so what do you do? And so
Right,
it's kind of hard to come up with an explanation that people understand. Not that I care if they know I read tarot cards, but it's like, how do you say like, because people always get this like Miss Cleo thing in their head, right? And they're like, oh, so
right. I was
you're like
just
Miss
gonna say
Cleo,
that.
and I fucking hate that. I'm like, no, I'm not Miss fucking Cleo. Like I do so much more. But our profession doesn't have an actual
No,
name. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, I'm a spiritualist. And then people will be like, well, yeah, but, like,
right,
what do you do? And I'm like,
right,
I read cards or mediumship, or I do, I teach classes. And then they're like, okay, Miss Cleo. And I'm like, I'm
right,
not Miss
right,
Cleo.
right.
So I think the hardest thing is being able to tell people, like this is my actual profession, and to
Right.
be able to, because then yeah, so then you meet people and they're like, well, can you see my dead grandma? Like it's like,
Right.
oh my god, Lord, it's like the hardest thing to do is actually explain it. I don't think I've had anyone call me evil. I don't think I've had anyone call me the devil. I've been called worse by better anyway, so that whatever they call me on the side, I don't know. I've never heard it. Um, and I've gotten shit from um, men, right? Because they always figure like, oh, this bitch is nuts.
About to put a spell on
They
me.
want to be like, this bitch is nuts. Are you serious? So I think that's the biggest, you know,
Right.
that's the biggest thing that I've gotten is just trying to explain what it is that I do and have people understand it and take it seriously.
Right. That
Um,
part is that part is hard. I just went through that at the gym recently where someone was asking me what I did, and I was, because how do you explain it? And then that's what he said. Oh, like Miss Cleo. And it was like, the fuck? I didn't say I have a fucking
oh
fortune
my
teller. You know what I
goodness.
mean? I didn't say I have a crystal ball and I'm over here like, telling people's futures. And I was like, no, it's a little bit more than that. And so when I use the term energetic healer, they're kind of like, what is that? Like, what do you do? And then if I start to go into it, oh, and that's the other thing of, can you be so and so's past, do you feel them? And I'm like, look, I clock out. Like I actually set the intentions to clock out. When I'm off, I just want to be off. I don't want to be feeling people's past loved ones all day, every day. You know what I mean? And it's not to be rude, it's not to be mean, to say that I
Mhm.
don't want to give people the fucking, you know what I mean, messages. But sometimes I just want to fucking be off. Like sometimes I just want to relax. And the second you say you're a medium, it's like, oh, can you feel so and so? Oh, I know you. No, no, it
Right.
doesn't. I didn't turn it on and let's say, okay, let's fucking connect right now. I just want my massage. Like, can I just fucking chill? you know?
No, that
Um,
makes sense.
I'm not Jamaican that I know of, boo. It's crazy. Like those are some of the trying to get the profession, the title to be taken seriously of what you do. And a lot of
Yeah.
people come at you. I think those have been, I think I want to say, I wouldn't say it's ever made or break my path because I always still push forward, but those are kind of some of the hindrances I think that we kind of go through when someone's looking at us like, oh, this is a profession. Like you could do
Yeah,
this shit.
it's hard to be taken seriously.
Right? Like,
Um,
oh, or are you charging for this? And it's kind of like, no, I'm just gonna fucking pay my rent with spirit money.
right. I'm gonna fucking pay my rent in kilos of herbs. But
I'm just gonna thank you, it's done. Like, come on now. No, I got fucking bills to pay too.
yeah,
I'm like, what's the difference between what I do and what a fucking therapist does who sits there and charges your fucking insurance like $100 a fucking hour for you to sit on the couch and talk about your problems? Like, what the fuck is the difference? All I do is I channel spirit and fucking use cards and I use other beings to do so.
I
But
can't.
I never saw that as like a big problem, but it is something that comes up. And I do find myself now when I'm out and people are like, what do you do? And I have to like, how do I explain this to this
Right.
person?
How do you explain it? I
Because I'll
think
say I run my own business and they'll go, oh,
right.
what do you do? And it's like, all right, here goes
Right.
the
It's
conversation.
like okay. It's like you have to get the story prepared in your head, like to explain it. Like so.
Yeah. Because the
Um,
second I say one thing, if I say tarot, it's like, oh, what do you see in my future? The fuck?
I had somebody do that to me in Houston where they had this necklace or something. And they were like, do you like my necklace or blah, blah, blah. And then they were like, well, what do you see? And I'm like, look, first of all, I'm drunk. Like, you don't want to fucking ask me that. You're way better at that. It's so lovely. Um, what I think though I was going to say is that, so I think when you get to a point, right, where you are independent, not for everybody. So, we'll get there. But when you're independent and you've kind of breaking free from your family, maybe you're living on your own, you're doing your own thing, you just kind of don't care anymore. It's really easy to not give two fucks what anyone has to say, right?
Right, right,
I've found a lot of people, young, old, grown, halfway grown, whatever, that when they are living with parents or they're living from support from family or somebody else, that they find it really hard to come out,
right, right,
um,
right.
because of being shunned, not just because of religious things or anything, but that understanding that they get. Um, and so it takes them a while to come out because they're so worried about what everyone has to say. But that's why I kind of ask, like, what do you think is the worst thing can happen? And do you really feel like people ultimately can hide it? Like,
I will say, so just real quick, Joshua, just you would donate, boo, and then we'll get to it somewhere in this segment. So I would say one of the things of people coming into, whether it's spirituality, whether you're looking into witchcraft, whether you're looking into shit Buddhist monk or whatever the hell you're looking into, right? I would say that one of the things is you kind of have to find yourself first. One of the things, because in early on in my path, spirit directed me to open the tribe. You know, I opened the group, and so I was directed early in my path, like that was something that I needed to do. That was something that I needed to provide this space, right?
mhm,
And what did we see? We saw a lot of people who were like, I want to help, I want to do this. And then they're in their fucking closets, they're, they're hiding in their cars, they're doing this, which
mhm,
spirit's not going to say not to help. But when you shift into this path of I want to help people, well, how effective can you be if your readings are in your car, if your readings are in your closet, if your readings are in these places where you cannot be yourself? You have to hide your tarot cards, you have to hide what you're doing, you have to hide your energy from everyone else. So for me personally, in one of the decisions I had to make, this I had to make in the tribe was to kind of remove people who were in the spiritual closet. Like they just could not be that part or be approved readers in the group on that way,
mhm.
because you're sitting here and you're giving people this advice of what they should do in your life, but you're not even doing it. So where's the integrity? That's one of the part. I feel like you gotta get to the point to figure out who the fuck you are first, right?
Yeah.
Because if you can't even tell your family that this is something that's calling to you, that you believe in it, that you hear angels, then that's the bigger problem that you got to work through. Because now you're going based on the fear of losing whatever it is. So let's say you're living with family and they pay all the bills and you're like, man, if I tell them they're going to kick me out, here goes the fear. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't deal with that fear, right? I'm
Mhm.
not saying that you shouldn't kind of work through that. But if that's the reason why you're in the closet, you probably need to take a step back and ask yourself other questions. You know what I mean? I think
Mhm.
it's easy to sit here and say, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to jump into this path and I want to help. But if you're doing it from a secretive place, are you truly helping the people that you touch? And yes, in some instances you will, right? But you can't live up to what you're telling them. And so then you
Right.
become a hypocrite. You become the hypocrite. I'm going to tell you live your best life. I'm going to tell you to get out there and don't care what nobody else thinks. I'm going to tell you to
Mhm.
do that. And then I'm hiding away from my family because I don't want them to know that I use tarot cards. Not try to judge anybody, but you just kind of have to. I think you need to figure out where you stand, and
Mhm.
you stand in that power of what your belief system is. So if you're people who are highly religious, right? Let's say they're highly religious, and then everything outside of religion is devil worshiping. So you're either going to become the person who shows them the difference, right?
Oh, you're already messaging people? Damn, you're smooth.
Oh shit, look at Divine Moon. I'm gonna just show you guys the scammer. Look at this. They stole my picture. Look at this shit.
You
I
are
will
on
never
it.
ever say this, you guys. Please know this Divine Moon is a scammer. I will never, ever, ever say some bullshit like this,
I'm
you
kind
guys.
of fucking jealous. I can't wait for somebody to steal my picture and become me. Like, I'm gonna fucking screenshot that shit and frame it.
I beloved, really beloved, really beloved.
Yeah, I can't wait. I
Okay,
love
enjoy.
it.
Let me just read some of these comments.
Um, so I think we're talking about like the religious thing, right? Number one for me, just because I'm spiritual and somebody may think I'm the devil or what I do is wrong, I don't tend to knock people for that, right? Um, had I been living with whoever, say my grandparents, right? Because my grandma who passed, was very, um, she wasn't very religious, but she did kind of step into religion when something happened, in the family. And so she became, very religious into the Bible kind of thing. I do have to say that for me, um, I do feel like, if you are living in somebody's home, you kind of have to, just like your kids, you know what I mean? You kind of have to respect them, their area, what you're doing. And I think that's very important that people who can branch out, right, to do their own thing, because some
Right,
people just don't like it. It's uncomfortable, right? You can't fucking have your mom who believes this is witchcraft open your door and she sees fucking shit in jars and snake skin here and dead shit there. And so
right,
it's not, because although it's not to say like I can't do it or whatever, but I do feel like to some extent, right, there has to be some respect for somebody else's home. Now when you move and you do your own thing, that's your space, you do what you want with it. um but I do always respect everybody's opinion,
right,
on what it is that they believe, just like I hope everybody would respect my opinion on not being religious or not believing this, that, or the other,
right,
with certain things. And I think that is a huge thing, um, is to kind of slowly go into like, don't give anyone a fucking heart attack. You know what I mean? Like slowly, like
chicken bones
explain
and shit.
yourself. Right, right. Explain yourself. Explain what you're doing. Don't fucking just go and have this family talk and then you're throwing chicken bones and you're asking for sacrifices and shit like that. Whatever the case is, but I
Thank you guys
do.
for the kudos of my haircut.
I do think it's very, important to be respectful of other people's opinions as well, whether or not you agree with it. And I don't feel like though that you should allow their opinions to make or break what you choose to do or
Right,
what makes you happy.
right.
But
Well, I think it's hard if you have roommates, right? And then all of a sudden you get into spell work, right? And then
yeah,
all of a sudden you got camels around and your roommates are going to start to be like, one of the biggest things I will say, you guys, is that people have fear to this stuff,
mhm,
right? People are afraid of it. They will project that fear onto you. Because one of the things I used to hear was, well, how do you know who you're talking to? And I'm like,
yeah,
look, I know I'm not sitting over here conversing with no fucking demons. You got to understand the energy. And this is why I've always gone to energy. I'm like, I feel energy on a cosmic fucking level, right? You got to feel the energy. Um, Evil shit is not going to tell you to heal and help someone. You know what I mean? And I think people have this fear of like, well, how do you know? Because then it goes down to the downgrading your gifts and you're not as special as you think you
mhm,
are. And their projections on you. So when we're talking about being in the spiritual closet, though, you then internalize it and stay in this place of, I really like this stuff, or I'm really practicing this stuff, but I can't I can't do it because of the repercussions of everyone around me. So when do you change? Now, I do agree if you're still living with your parents, if you're in somebody else's home, then yeah, you do need to be respectful of what they feel and believe, because just because you may have your energy together, they may not. And you never fucking know, right? So I do feel like there's things that you have to deal with. But if you're I would say if you're going to step into a path of where you're trying to step up to help people, you I think you need to be ready for that, and you need to have your own space. And you need to
Mhm.
have that to where you're not having judgment and needing to hide, because I do feel like in this path we should have a sense of integrity in what we
Mhm.
do. um I know someone said something about why don't we say, coaches, and I do use the word coach. I use the word spiritual life coach, and I do have that option available, but people still don't understand that. Like, what is a spiritual life
Mhm.
coach? What does that entail? And the second you start talking about anything that has to do with the occult world, all of a sudden you're Miss Cleo, or
Yeah.
you're a teller. You know what I
You know,
mean?
so we're talking about like being respectful and stuff of other people's space or religions or thoughts, whatever. So then you get to like teenagers, right? Teenagers, older teenagers who are feeling this spiritual pull but feel like they can't tell anyone. How do you think that they should deal with being in that stigma of not being able to come out when they're kind of stuck there, right? They can't move, they can't get their own place, they can't do their
Right.
own thing.
Right.
Um,
I'm gonna say a story. There was this woman, she was a reader, and she was beautiful, beautifully gifted, but she was so afraid if anybody at her job found out, she would lose her job. She would lose her position. And she was working towards being a therapist and marriage counselor and all of these things. And I'm like, it ties into your gifts. Like, what people don't realize is it ties into your gifts, your what people call God-given gifts, right? So when do we switch to say, I'm going to stand up because this isn't bad. I'm not doing anything bad. I'm not doing anything crazy. This is just what I'm doing. Just like I've seen people who are scared because they have little small children, and they're scared someone's going to say, oh, she's doing witchcraft and take them away. But I'm like, if you're not doing anything crazy, if you're not doing no crazy shit, you should have nothing to be afraid of. Nothing to be afraid of. The only thing you fear is the judgment of others. The only thing you
mhm.
fear is the losing them. That's a decision you have to make to step into this practice, because the stigma is there. We don't get enough credit for what we do. And hopefully some of us are able in this lifetime to change that, right? Or to set a kind of bar where people start to look at this profession as a profession, right? Hopefully, I do hope that that's one of the things that I can do in this lifetime. But when do you as a person say, I'm proud of what I'm doing? Because I
Mhm.
think it always stems to you. It's not about everyone else. So if you're in the spiritual closet, are you truly proud of what you're doing? Are you truly proud of what you're putting out into the universe? Are you standing behind what you say? You
Right.
know, not say you got to go and scream it from every rooftop. I'm a psychic.
Right. I agree. I agree. I think, like just in general, like with politics, like you don't go out to dinner with people and just start spewing your beliefs all over, knowing that these people possibly disagree, or it's great
Right,
to have a conversation. If somebody asks me about it, I'm never gonna lie, but I'm never gonna sit down at a table where I know they don't understand or it's already a little bit uncomfortable and try to push my beliefs onto anybody else. Anybody else. That's just,
right.
I'm not gonna fucking come to the Thanksgiving dinner with old ass grandma who fucking reads the scriptures before we eat and, start fucking telling her about my candle work and shit. Like, no, I'm not gonna do that. It's, because I don't feel like I have to prove myself. It is
Right.
what it is. I practice what I practice. I don't have to shove it in your face. I don't have to wear a shirt that says I'm a fucking witch. If I want to wear it, I want to wear it. But I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna fucking go to grandma's house who already thinks I'm half of the devil, and then be like, "Look, grandma, look at my witch shirt." Like she's gonna be like, "Fuck, this is gonna fucking keel over, and it's
I
gonna be
think
my
having
fault."
conversations though about what you do and the people you've helped, like I've had conversations with my family, and I've
Mhm.
had even like my nephew a couple months ago, I had saw him and he didn't actually know what I did. Like he kind of heard from others, but didn't really know what I did. And when I started to explain to him on that higher level of what I was doing with energy and healing and trauma,
Mhm.
he was like, wow, that's what you do. And even the lady who was cutting my hair, when we were talking, because it immediately goes to the psychic medium. And I was like,
Mhm.
I specialize more with trauma, with healing trauma. It's not the just Miss Cleo, give me my fortune kind of energy. It's not what I specialize in. I
Mhm.
specialize more into healing. And then she's just like, oh, like, okay. So I think having a conversation about what you do, like, no, I'm not just over here chanting and motherfucking, you know what I mean? I'm like, not just doing this. There's more to what I'm doing. And even if you are just chanting and that's what you want to do, I just think you gotta, if you're proud, okay, like I'm a golfer. I'm proud to be a golfer.
All right.
Everything you do, have that same pride in it. I do want to tackle what Stacey says right here, where her
Mhm.
concern with teens who explore, don't know how to protect themselves from the dark, especially when they're already stuck in depression. And we actually have these. These are going to get on my nerves. We actually have a segment on spell work and stuff like that coming out, I think, next week sometime. We're going to talk about that, but just I'll kind of touch it, and then Oracle can give her sign on that. But I will tell you, it doesn't matter what age you are. If you're inexperienced, you're inexperienced. Okay, and we talk about this on another show where we both came into it as an adult and still were inexperienced. I do think you got to understand and do your research. The bad thing about it is because spell work is so taboo, that you have these teens that do it in the dark and don't have anyone to go to, don't have anybody to talk to. If it wasn't so looked at as devil worshiping, you would have more of these teens that would ask about it and be okay to ask about it. They wouldn't feel like they have to hide in the shadows and experiment, just like with everything, right? So, my personal opinion about that is like I'm very open with my family. I have grandsons that know I do spell work. They've been in the room when I'm doing it. They've seen me. There's no hidden shit. It's not scary. It's not nothing.
Mhm.
So whenever they get to that age, if they ever have questions like, hey, I want to know more about this, there's no problem. There's nothing hidden. They don't have to go in the shadows and experiment. But you got these kids that do that because they have nobody to ask. Their
Mhm.
families down it and they're interested in it. Just like when kids experimenting with drugs and shit, it's the same shit.
I think number one, I think they're number one, first and foremost, stepping into spirituality. I would not suggest spell work being the first thing that you jump into at
Right.
all. Right? I think there's levels to how you learn and what you're doing. I don't think any teen should want to do that. I think number two, a lot of teens take shit from TV. Um,
Right.
I forgot the movie with the three witches.
Uh,
The big one that I'm with, Nev
Craft.
Campbell, The Craft. I think people watch movies, right? And don't get me wrong, The Craft was actually directed by a lady who was a witch herself. But I think they take movies, right? And they take all this shit that they think they know what they're doing. They take Charmed, they take whatever they see, on TV, and they think they know what they're
Right.
doing. I think that's
Right.
100% very, very dangerous. Um, and number two, I think, or number three, I think, when a child or a teen adolescent is unable to freely come out, many times they can. rebel. And the
Right.
easiest way to rebel is to be this evil witch, right? This evil person, this person who explores the dark because
Right.
they want to get somebody's attention instead of trying to get somebody's understanding.
Right.
And that's where I feel like if you're already depressed, if you're already in a low energy, that can come very dangerous.
Right.
So, just if there is any teens that are watching or feel like that, number one, I don't think spell work is your go-to right now. I think with spirituality, you have to learn to be the student before you can jump off and become the teacher or experiment with things. It's all about learning, and I just don't think you should rely on the images that you're seeing through social media or movies or Netflix to um, turn you to base your reality or your beliefs off of.
Right. 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 One of the things is I will tell you that a lot of the same people that will down you for this career or this path will be the same people who reach out for shit when they need it, when it's convenient to them. And so you got to ask yourself, are you standing in your authentic energy in the spiritual closet? And are you doing any good for yourself and the people that you're touching by being in the spiritual closet?
Mhm.
Um, I do think you got to figure out who are you first. Spirituality is not a trend. Spirituality is not a religion. Spirituality is not, a fad. And I don't think you should come into it with any of that kind of energy. I feel like you should, if you're trying to figure out who you are and you're lost, figure out who you are and if you're lost, you know. But if you're gonna step into it and you want to help people, then I think you wouldn't become a doctor and be doing surgeries in the back alley.
Mhm.
You wouldn't become a lawyer and be doing cases in, you know what I mean, in the shadows. You wouldn't become, there's just these things like, so why step into something where you got these beautiful gifts and you're going to sit in a closet because you're afraid of what everyone's going to say? And that's where you have to ask yourself, what are you truly doing? And if you're not harming or hurting anybody, then branch out and study. There are
Yeah.
tons of gifted people, not just myself, that has tons of classes. There are tons of gifted people who teach on YouTube, on different platforms. Learn, get your confidence, grow. That way you can truly assist somebody. You know, I don't believe in sitting in the spiritual closet for the sake of others. Doesn't sit well with me. I
I
think you
do
owe it to
too.
yourself. And this path is becoming your authentic version of self. So if you're becoming your authentic self, it's not run around like, yeah, I'm spiritual and proud and running around screaming about it, but you're not hiding from anyone either.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, take this and shove it down your throat, granny.
Yep. 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 100%. I think too, Joshua, on that. Number one, I don't know if anyone gets stupider. I think it's just out there more, right? Social media is there. Everybody puts their opinions out there. I don't think anyone is any more stupider or but I get it. I get what you're saying. I just think it's just too much, too easily accessed. Everybody's opinions are too easily accessed. And two, for teenagers, literally, I don't remember if it was 16 or 15 to the age of 23, they are not, they're considered slightly insane because of the way their hormones are, because of all the imbalances in their body. And so when you're choosing to jump into spirituality, spell work, anything like that, a lot of that comes off of emotion, and that's a horrible, horrible place to start. Horrible
Right.
place to start. So don't do it just because, don't become spiritual because, you don't like going to church anymore and you want to rebel. Don't start doing dark shit because you watch TV and your mom's going to fucking hate it. So make sure that it's something you want to do. Make sure that it is something that you want to do.
Right,
And
right.
just like you want people to be respectful of you and what your beliefs are and what your practices are, be aware that you have to be respectful of other people's as well.
Right. It's like you don't want someone coming at you, Bible thumping, right? And pushing this down your throat. I don't think you should do it to others in that way. And I want you guys to remember, anytime that you think you need to prove your stance in something, that's all your ego. That's not your
Mm-hmm.
higher self. That's not in the spiritual realm, right? No ascended master is telling you to do that. No angel is telling you to prove who you are. No, no guides are telling you that. So that's all your ego. The biggest thing is find who you are and just be you, free in there, right? Um, thank you. Just don't sit in the spiritual. The thing about that spiritual closet is, I really feel like, fuck what everybody else is going through. I don't feel it helps you. I don't feel it helps you. And I do feel like, yes, teens, I feel, and that's why I said, like, Stacey, I've said, like, I don't feel like they have the go-to. I don't feel like they have enough people around them that when they're talking about things that they hear or they see, even myself as a child, I didn't have that where I could go to someone and say, I see these black spirits and shit. My family was just like, oh, you're having bad dreams, go to sleep. Nobody was there to kind of guide me to say, no, you're seeing the darker form. I see the shadow side of people.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody was there to explain that to me as a fucking child. They just told me it was my imagination. So I think if we are able to speak to our children and teens more, they would have more knowledge by the time they even get to their teens. You know what I mean? They would have more knowledge, but everything is so secretive. So then when these kids get to teens, it's like the TV shows, and it's like, okay, they start doing spell work and shit and start calling shit to be funny. you know you don't know what you're doing. Yeah, and the term sacrifice, like, we have a you guys, next week, there's a whole segment we're talking about spell work, so we won't go too far into that because we have a whole show on spell work and sacrifice and things like that, of what, belief systems and stuff like that. But just know, from the standpoint of sitting in the closet, you got to always ask yourself, why am I in the closet, and how does it help me being in the closet? And then write down your pros and cons to being in the closet. If you're fine being in the closet, be in the closet.
Yeah.